Who's having fun with this? Guys, today we are going to do a quick review about what is early sport specialization, what is a multi-sport athlete, and do any of these things actually help with athletes becoming professionals? So a little background, about 10, 20 years ago, we used to think, we being sports science community, that specializing an athlete in one sport before puberty would give them a better chance of becoming a professional or a high potential, a high performer in that specific sport. Logically, that would make sense because you're focusing your time developing technically and tactically in this one sport, athletically in this one sport. Your body is essentially created for the demands of this one sport. However, what we then found is early sport specialized athletes as opposed to multi-sport athletes, so athletes who are involved in multiple sports up until and beyond puberty, might actually tend to get injured more often and don't actually have any benefit when it comes to becoming pros. Actually, they might be less likely to become pros because they're less diverse, they get injured more often, and because in ESS athletes or early sport specialized athletes, their dropout rates before puberty are enormous. So let's take, for example, an 8-year-old swimmer, or they and their parents then decide you're just going to focus on swimming. This is your thing. You're really good at it, etc. Now, from a psychological perspective, I can totally understand why this one sport doesn't stay fun for very long. If that's your only focus, if that's your only drive, if that's the only thing you can do, if you don't have any diversity in your life. I can also see from a sports science standpoint how you're more likely to get injured because, again, your training's not diverse. At that age, you're probably not getting to go outside very much because you've got these practices. You're likely not in any sort of strength and conditioning program, so there's no sort of balance. Your brain and body is literally just formulated around the demands of your sport. The problem is that this can also lead to overtraining and burnout. So yes, while we have dropout rates, we're also looking at what needs to supplement an athlete who's early specialized in order to get them over this hump of I'm just specialized in my sport. That can lead to overtraining. Other things need to be trained. We need some level of diversity in our lives in order to keep our bodies healthy, in order to keep our brains healthy, in order to stay motivated. We start talking about early sport specialization, in my opinion, too early. This conversation shouldn't be had until the athlete is in puberty. So 13 to 15, in athletes in the age range of 13 to 15, early sport specialization was indicative, actually, of future success, meaning when they specialized between 13 and 15, then that became indicative for later success, but not earlier than that. Earlier than that, and we tend to go in the direction of burnout because we lose what's called deliberate practice and deliberate play. We just dive into deliberate practice and take a lot of the play out of it because we want these 8-year-old, 10-year-old, 12-year-old athletes to become elite. That's obviously going to suck the fun and the passion out of sport. And if they're already at a higher rate for getting injured, who's having fun with this? It's really important on this specific topic to be following the research, especially for parents who are trying to help make decisions for their kids. What's important to know, what I hope you take away, is that specializing before the age of earliest 13 years old is not indicative of your athlete becoming elite in any way. It might actually just put them in a burnout and or injury and or lack of motivation situation. And that's not optimal for elite performance, and it's not optimal for health either. For athletes who are not multi-sport, so who are early sport specialized, try to get them into a strength and conditioning program or try to get them into another sport just for fun or another way that they can learn how to move their body, gain some proprioception, gain some coordination, gain some strengths outside of just the demands of their sport. That will help them stay fresh in their minds, stay fresh in their bodies, and be able to learn different movement patterns. It will really help them out later, and it might actually help them become a better athlete. Give it a try. Let me know how it goes, and I hope you enjoyed this really quick summary of what is ESS.